Joining us now, Republican Congressman Kinzinger of Illinois, a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. It's nice to have you here, Congressman, as Gina Haspel is on Capitol Hill trying to rally support ahead of what will be a tough confirmation hearing tomorrow morning. As our Ryan Brown just went through, the concerns about the Black Ops site that she operated in 2002, the fact that waterboarding of at least 3 suspected terrorists happened there. What does she need to say to members of Congress to assuage their concerns tomorrow?
Well, I think she has to make it clear that 2002, just coming off the heels of 9/11, America was very nervous. These were approved, and I actually think enhanced interrogation, this is just me speaking, should still be in the toolbox in extreme circumstances. Actually not as effective as many other ways of interrogation. But I think she needs to assuage people's fears that when she becomes CIA chief, she's going to go in and reinstitute these, and I think talk about where we're at on that now. I think she's going to get approved, but you know, the good thing about the appointment process is people get to ask questions and get answers from it, and hopefully it'll be good.
Yeah, this is what confirmation hearings are for, is to ask these questions and to answer these questions. I don't think you think there's anything wrong with putting tough questions to her about this, correct?
Yeah, absolutely not. I think, you know, any nominee, anybody put in front needs the tough questions. But ultimately, with that comes a responsibility for the Democrats to also say, look, we have to give some deference to the fact that we're going to give the president his preference unless something major blocks us from that, because that's always kind of been the rules of the Senate. And I would hate to see that go away long term, because it would make that place even more dysfunctional than it already is.
So in just a few hours, the president will announce the decision he's already made on the Iran nuclear agreement, whether or not to waive the sanctions again. If he doesn't, that's essentially going to pull the U.S. out of the agreement. If he does that, here's what Richard Haass, the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, said the result will be. It will violate a cardinal national security rule, avoid having more than one nuclear crisis at a time. Is he right?
No, I don't think so. Look, I think if the president, I don't know what answer he's going to do, what he's going to end up, it appears that he might be pulling out of the deal. I think there's a way for him to pull out and hopefully compel something broader and better. And, you know, let's reimpose some of these sanctions. The reality is in 2026, most restrictions on Iran's nuclear program go away. So that's 8 years from now. By the way, 8 years ago was only 2010.
But not the key one.
So
as you know, they said, but not the key one. I mean, as you know, they signed the non-proliferation treaty, meaning any enrichment of uranium has to be for peaceful purposes. Now, of course, it's Iran.
Right.
So
yeah, exactly.
How much do you trust? But that is an important part of the agreement.
Yeah, but there's not many people out there that really will defend this to the nth degree. They'll say, look, this is better than nothing, even my friends on the other side of the aisle. I think there's an opportunity to get a much better deal here by being tough about it and saying, look, if Iran truly doesn't want to, if they want to have peaceful nuclear activity and they don't want to have ballistic missiles, let's negotiate ballistic missiles long-term into this. Let's make this deal basically never expire. Let's talk about their behavior in Syria and propping up a guy that's killed 500,000 Syrians and destabilized the region. So I think these are all things that can be brought into broad context. But right now, I think we're sitting on a situation where in 8 years, we're going to look at some of the things that expire, or 10 years, and start to regret it.
You keep on saying 8 years, 10 years, but how 6 months from now, tomorrow, do you think the world is safer if the U.S. pulls out of this deal?
I think the world is safer if we take a long-term approach at keeping Iran not just from getting nuclear weapons, which we have the ability to do, and I think we can negotiate a better deal to do it, but also when we confront Iran's behavior in the Middle East. They're destabilizing even outside us.
But you can confront that. You would agree you can confront that behavior even while, you know, preventing them or staying in this deal to stop them from producing nuclear weapons for 8 or 15 years, depending on how you count it.
I think it's possible, but if you want to confront that behavior peacefully and not militarily, I think you have to be able to compel Iran to the table, and that includes some of the sanctions that have been included in all of this. And I think this sends a message, too, in the negotiations in North Korea. Look, we want a deal with Kim Jong-un, but we're not going to accept something that allows you to get back on a track to a nuclear weapon. And I think this actually sends a message to Kim Jong-un that he needs to give up his nuclear weapons long term, and he'll probably get a guarantee of security from China or something like that.
Let me get your take on Congress's role as it pertains to oversight. Rudy Giuliani, as you know, in one of his many interviews in the last week, said that the president, quote, his word, funneled money, hush money payments for Stormy Daniels through Michael Cohen, his attorney. One of your Republican colleagues who was on the show with us last week, outgoing Congressman Charlie Dent, said, yes, at this point, Congress has a role to investigate, that oversight should look into this. Do you agree?
Well, Congress always has a role of oversight and investigation. The problem is when the Intel Committee comes out and says, we don't see any collusion. I haven't seen evidence of collusion. It's widely dispelled as just partisanship. So yes, do we need oversight? Absolutely.
I'm asking you about the hush. But I'm not asking you about the Russia investigation. I'm asking you about the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. That's what Dent was talking about.
An issue like this, if in fact this turns out to be the case, is an FEC issue. And from my understanding, FEC issues have purview by the FEC. So is there a role for oversight? I always think Congress should have oversight and should be a competitive branch with the executive branch no matter who's in power. But if this is a specific FEC thing and the idea is we're going to claw areas from that, I don't think that's necessarily appropriate.
Rudy Giuliani would not rule out the possibility that ultimately President Trump will assert his Fifth Amendment rights here if, in fact, he is compelled to testify. What message would that send to you?
It's hard to tell. I mean, the president has a right to take the Fifth Amendment, of course, and I'm really confused by Giuliani's interview, so it's kind of hard for me to tell what he's putting together all in once. If the president takes his Fifth Amendment right, it's probably a concern about what's going to be said, but I have no indication that he's going to do that right now besides this confusing interview by Rudy Giuliani.
Yes or no answer, since you say it's confusing. Is Rudy Giuliani helping or hurting the president? Helping or hurting?
Well, yes or no, I don't know. It seems to me hurting, unless there's some deep strategy I don't understand here.
Congressman, thank you.